Welcome to the Straight Red Card, and today Brett and I will review, if you will, the U.S. versus Canada friendly, but more importantly, the first qualifier, which was the United States versus Antigua and Barbuda. And
Not sure what accent that was.
yeah, I don't know. That was my Dexter Saint Jock. I don't know if you remember that character from Eddie Murphy's stand-up, Dexter Saint Jock. You don't remember him?
No. Well, I know Eddie Murphy. I don't know the character.
Oh, you got to check that stand-up out from. I think it's from '86, and it's just look up Dexter Saint Jock and Eddie Murphy on YouTube. I'm sure they've got it. And you know the reason I brought Dexter up, actually, if you would have, you probably noticed that. Antigua and Barbuda had a player named Dexter Blackstock. Did you notice that?
I did. Well, I didn't know his first name was Dexter.
Yeah. Well,
his name kept coming up on the up in the commentary.
Well, the whole thing of Eddie Murphy's stand-up is never let your wife take a vacation alone to one of the Caribbean islands or any of those islands out there, because some guy named Dexter St. Jock is going to walk up to her and go, "Oh, baby, why are you so lonely? If you were my girl, I treat you like a princess." And, before you know it, your wife is...
single.
Yeah. and looking for more Dexter St. Jock. So when the announcers kept saying, Dexter Blackstock, I just thought, oh, my God, they really do exist. Eddie Murphy was right on. He was right on. All right, but to the game, Brett. It was it was less inspirational to me than the whole Dexter Blackstock thing, because we just looked flat. Generally, we looked dead, and then you get to the whole question, and maybe I was going to get to this last, but we might as well start. I mean, this team just looks tired.
Well, let me start off by saying it's 3 points. Mm-hmm. You can't complain too much with that. The big thing is we should have. Won the game by more. We hit the crossbar once. We had several opportunities that we should have put away. Several chances where we should have shot when we ended up passing. But yes, to your point, the team does look dead, and maybe it's the fact that they've been training for 3 weeks, maybe 4 weeks now.
Yeah,
and they've been doing 2 days, 3 days, depending on where we're at in the camp.
Right.
And then you tack in that we're playing 5 games within an 18-day span.
Yeah.
It doesn't surprise me that we're coming up with injury problems. Players look worn down, just beaten. There's not that energy that we really had in the Scotland match, because they've been playing nonstop for quite some time.
They look fresh.
And I understand that Klinsmann wants the whole tournament feel, but in all honesty, what he's doing, he's wearing our players down. And
yeah.
We can do that in the World Cup. That's fine. But when we're trying to qualify, I'd rather play it a little bit safe. Let the guys relax.
Yeah, have some fresh legs. Yeah, exactly. I mean, you got to give them a break here and there. 2-a-days. I understand he wants to get everybody in shape. I understand he said Altidore came into camp, way out of shape.
Yeah, not as fit. It's not that he's out of shape. This is a big thing people have been bringing up. They're like, oh, he just got off playing a full season. How is he out of shape already after 2 weeks? I'm like, he never said he was out of shape. He said that he wasn't as fit, and basically saying he wasn't as sharp as the current option players that have been there for 2 weeks.
But isn't fit short for fitness?
Well, it is. Yes, it is fitness.
But then he would have said form.
Unfit, like a 90-minute game fit, and then the match game fit, and then there's the difference between being out of shape.
Well, okay.
I'm out of shape.
He's not out of shape.
That's at this level. No.
Right. I mean, he's compare him to the average six-pack Joe, or even the average, sort of weekend soccer player. Of course, he's not out of shape. Yeah, I agree. He doesn't have a beer gut. All right. I mean,
you take two strikers that are contending for the same spot. You send one to a Caribbean island for 2 weeks, and you bring the other one in for 2 days and 3 days. Who's going to be more fit? Who's going to be sharper? It's going to be the guy that's been training for those 2 weeks straight, regardless of what league or how he came off the season.
So Jozy took a Caribbean vacation?
No, the entire Oz 18 took an entire Caribbean vacation. Mandatory.
I thought they were working out there.
No. It was all team building and trust falls and shit like that.
Oh, really? Okay.
I don't know if that's what it was, but I imagine you take a team vacation to relax. There's probably some form of team camaraderie building type activity planned. They're not out there on the beach playing soccer in sand and everything.
Hanging out with Dexter St. Jock, having a beer at the bar with Dexter St. Jock. Okay, so yeah, I mean, but he wasn't as fit as everybody else, I guess. But he did express that, he wasn't as fit as everybody else, and he was disappointed with it, I thought. But
maybe make a little hungrier if he gets into the game.
Well, yeah. I think that the two-a-days is the big problem, and hopefully we see Klinsmann kind of let these guys have a little bit of a break. I'd like to see some fresh legs. That's what I'd really like. But, this article in MLS goes on to say much of the blame for the disjointed effort that we've been seeing, Brett, goes to the coach's lineup choices, Klinsmann. He says Klinsmann was meant to be done experimenting, but 3 key players working from spots where he's never played them qualifies as such, and such being the disjointed effort. I'm sorry. I really don't think that that's a legitimate point. I don't think you can honestly say that Dempsey and Donovan, who switched back and forth quite a bit actually throughout the game, playing left wing and right wing, or
quote unquote,
left forward, right forward, or left midfield, right midfield, depending on how you see it, because really it didn't look that much different from how we used to play under Bob, honestly, except they were more aggressive. To me, the only guy that played out of position was Torres, and that argument right there, yes, was played. It was disjointed. Yes, it did not look good. It wasn't smooth, but it wasn't because people had never played those positions before. I think that's overstating it. And I know if Jimmy Conrad heard that, he would definitely say that's a pile of poo.
Well, first off, Klinsmann has been playing Torres out of position this entire camp,
right?
So we can't lump our performance in the qualifier here.
And he had to play Torres.
Playing left back. Who else are you gonna? I mean, you can play Boca back there, but who are you gonna replace him with? We saw what Gooch did when he came in.
Yikes!
He opened the field up to give them their only goal.
Right.
So there's that issue. I don't agree with that completely.
But I was just getting to the point. I just don't think that this is all Klinsmann's fault, except for the fact that he's working the hell out of these guys, and they look tired. Yeah, yes. They look like, a mule who has, plowed too many fields. And that's kind of how they look. They played that way, too, and it looked like they really wanted to play harder and better. It just, it just all looked a little kind of beyond it at that point. But you brought up Gooch, and that's a really good point, because as we move forward here, you can't start Gooch the way he's playing right now. He's been too slow.
Sub him, man.
Yeah, I think if you're gonna scooch Boca over to left back in the next game, unless, and we all have our fingers crossed that Fabian Johnson will be healthy, and that Torres won't.
At this point,
what's that?
I would take Castillo getting healthy at this point.
Yeah, I would too. I mean, I'd rather have Boca Goodson in the middle. I just feel comfortable with those two. Although I do have to say, our good friend from the Houston Dynamo. He's right behind there. I think this is the time to insert Cameron and give him a shot. I mean, but it is Guatemala, right? And that's do you want to screw around versus Guatemala, or do you want to leave Boca and Goodson back there as your solid CBs and just find somebody to fill in at left back, regardless of who it is at this point, but somebody.
It all depends on the knock on Torres. I mean, if you take Torres out of the equation and Castillo and Johnson are still injured, you have to push Boca over. There's nobody that could fill in as left back that could really. I mean, I guess in all honesty, you could always bring Jones to the back line, because Jones has played in the back line when he went on loan to Blackburn, I think it was.
Right.
Played a little bit in the back line. But in all honesty, what about Parkhurst? I guess you could always bring over Parkhurst.
Yeah, that's what I said. Why not Michael? Michael could squeeze in there and fill in.
That would work, I would think. I mean, at this level, it couldn't hurt.
It just depends on how important you think it is versus Guatemala, because Guatemala is no, Antigua Barbuda. No. I mean, they're a really rock-solid team at home.
And then, I was going to say, this is Guatemala in Guatemala.
Yeah.
We've had difficulty over the years trying to defeat them there.
It's not going to be easy. The surroundings aren't friendly. It's going to be rough, and it just depends on where you want to take your shot, where you want to take chances. I would rather stick Parkhurst at left back rather than slide somebody into experiment at center back. But then again, there's this other side of the story for me, and I'm really having a hard time with it because I really like Cameron. So here's the other thing. Cameron is an extremely diverse player. He's a guy that can play in the midfield. He can play defensive midfield. He can play center back. Why not left back? Why not? Just give him a shot. I know he's not fast. I know he's not known as being a great crosser. But then that kind of does wipe out your ability to cross, because Parkhurst, if you put Parkhurst in the left back, he's not going to be able to left foot a cross in. That's not his thing either.
No. If you push Vogt over to the left, you really wouldn't be getting that much pressure up the left as a wing back anyways. So there wouldn't be that left footed cross regardless, because he's not the fastest out there.
Although he did have that one penetration into the middle that almost led to a goal.
Well,
late in the game.
To be fair, in that match, he could risk it, and he could push forward, and he could challenge.
Right.
Whereas when you start facing a team that has more seasoned pros, players playing around the world, whether it's MLS or even in Europe or whatever, it's just how it is. If Boca's going up against, say, Marco Papa, just to name an example here.
Yep.
I don't know if I'd really favor that. Although Marco's not really the fastest guy out there, he's more relies on little tricks and his dribbling ability. And that might work to Boca's advantage if he's on the wing back. But I would stick if Torres, Castillo, and Johnson are all injured, I would say throw Parkhurst back there.
Yeah,
that's what I would do.
Okay, and then keep Boca and Goodson in the middle. I mean, listen, those two have been solid together in the middle, and they seem to work really well. I'd hate to mess around, but if I'm gonna mess around, I don't know. You could you could use Cameron on the left back too. I think he'd do just fine there, and it would give you a really solid defensive player. Not that Parkhurst isn't, and you could definitely shut things down. Then the question becomes: do you come out and play the exact same formation you played, against Scotland and against Antigua Barbuda? Do you come out and do that against Guatemala too? I don't know. Is it time for a 4-4-2? But the 4-4-2 has looked pretty lame whenever we've switched to it. Boyd.
It still depends on how you play it. If we play very much like how we did against Italy, where we had a designated defensive midfielder and we had a designated attacking midfielder, and we had wingers who stayed on the wings but pinched in on the defense, that could work. But you'd have two designated strikers as well. In that case, we had Jozy and we had Buttle against Italy. So if Jozy is still quote unquote unfit for the match, which I'd imagine he's got to be fit and well rested.
No, I mean Jozy played the very end of the last game. So.
Yeah. So would you start say Gomez and Jozy up top? Let Jozy play the target striker. Let Gomez run off of him, and they can even reverse it. I thought Gomez did well enough to hold up when he had the opportunity. He had a good game. I thought he did well. I'm glad that he got his goal.
Yep.
So it just depends. You have Dempsey playing behind him. You have Donovan, and then I guess question mark at who you play at left mid now.
Well, if you're playing if you play Altidore and Torres, or excuse me, Altidore and Gomez up top, don't you play Dempsey out at left midfield, Donovan at right midfield, and then play Bradley and Jones in the middle?
You could. It wouldn't necessarily be a true 4-4-2 with the diamond midfielder. I just don't see Dempsey and.
You're harking back to the Bob Bradley days if you do that.
It would basically turn into a 4-2-2-2 more than anything. You'd see Bradley and say Jones push back into the defense a lot more, and Donovan Dempsey pinching towards the middle and close it out, and then spread back out maybe on the attack. Who knows? But I guess you could. I don't know how many people would really want that. In all honesty, I'd almost want to see Dempsey more behind the strikers in that attacking role. Bradley does pretty decent at out wide. He does it for Gabo every now and then. He did it for the U.S. against Italy. Not Italy. He did it against Italy, yeah.